The title of this video is, I think I'll call it, How to Navigate in the Hills. Of course, you know, there might be people watching this from all over the world, and hill walking can vary greatly depending on where you are. The navigation skills needed for a walk, say, in Alaska or New Zealand South Island, they're very different from those required by someone walking along the Peter Pad in the Netherlands. You know, it's even within the UK, there's an enormous contrast. A July walk in the Chiltern Hills is a world away from heading over the Cairngorm Plateau in February towards Ben Macdui. You know, there's another problem with trying to make a video called How to Navigate in the Hills, is that I would say it's simply impossible to cover all the necessary skills in just one video, even for a simple walk, you know, in good weather. So what I'll try to do today is I'll try and share some, what I think hopefully are useful tips, you know, that hopefully you'll find interesting. If you're an experienced hill walker, you know, and if you've got different methods to share, then, you know, leave your suggestions in the comments box. All right, enough talk. Let's get started. I'm heading up to visit the tarns, which are in that direction, and I'll follow a bridleway for the majority of it. Oh, by the way, if English isn't your first language, tarn comes from an old Viking word, tjörn, and tjörn means a small pond or pool in the hills. In medieval English, tjörn became turn, and this eventually became tarn. The video hasn't even started yet, and I'm starting to waffle. Let's stay focused. So here's my first tip. Use the simplest method that the terrain and the situation allows. As an example, this is my position at the start of this road. Now, I could take a compass bearing, you know, and follow it, and then I could adjust my bearing every time the road changes direction. So like this. From here, I would take a bearing of 316 degrees. Now, that approach, it would work, you know, but in this terrain, you know, it's a road. A compass isn't really necessary, you know, it's just a road. So instead of taking multiple compass bearings, you know, as I go along, I can simply turn or, you know, orient my map so that the road on the map aligns with the road in front of me, you know, on the ground. Not only is this quicker and simpler, but it also provides more information. A compass bearing, 316, would just tell me, you know, to go in a certain direction. But by orienting the map, let's have a look, there it is, you know, I can tell that this is called Easdale Road. And although I can't see it from here, I know that there's a youth hostel in that direction. You know, the map also tells me, let's have a look, what else does it tell? The map also tells me that it's 850 meters to the start of the bridleway. So it should take around 13 minutes to reach. You know, as I walk down the road, the map is telling me that I'll go past a wooded area, you know, on my right. Then there'll be some buildings and then a bridge as the road goes over a river. Also, the map tells me that the bridleway starts just after a sharp right-hand turn in the road. Okay, and since the bridleway right at the beginning crosses over a river, I'll be looking out for a bridge at the start of the bridleway. You know, there has to be a way to get horses over the river. So in this case, the simplest method for this terrain isn't to take multiple compass bearings, you know, as I go along the road. It's just simply turn or orient my map. You know, it's much faster and it's simpler, but more importantly, it's more appropriate for this type of situation. I'm now at the start of the bridleway, which brings me to my next tip. Always know where you are. When I was walking along the road, you know, it was easy to pinpoint my location just by looking at things that, you know, that I can see on the map and I can see on the road. But obviously it's not always that simple. I'll explain more about that later on, but the key point here is it's really important to always know where you are on the map. You know, a good habit is to check where you are before you start off, each time you start off, and then regularly, you know, check where you are on the map as you're walking along. For example, I checked my map earlier on and I knew that I was standing on the bridge. And from there, I plan to follow this track, expecting to see a wall or a fence on my right-hand side here, about 100 meters later. But now I've walked 100 meters, more than that, and there's no wall, as you can see. This doesn't mean that I'm lost. I still know I'm somewhere, you know, sort of in this area on the map, but I'm not quite sure of my exact location. Now, here, obviously, it's not a big issue, but if you're up in the hills in the fog or walking at night, not knowing where you are can be, well, it can be far more serious. Is that a good way of putting it? In situations like that, you have a few options. Right now, as I said, I'm unsure of my exact location, but I know that there is a road to my north in that direction. You know, so I could just walk north until I hit the road. In the hills, you know, you may know there's a stream or a forest edge or a line of rocks nearby, and you just navigate towards one of those features. One of the most common strategies is to go back to your last known location. So in this case, I could simply return, you know, I could go all the way back to the bridge and start this leg again. Another option is to adapt your plan. You know, to do this, you'll first need to figure out where you are, you know, by using the features around you, or you can do a relocation, or you can do transits, and, you know, you can do a resection. You know, there's lots of ways to find out where you are. Let's say that you were walking from, I don't know, point A to point B, but somehow you ended up at point C. You could actually change your plan completely and navigate from C to B. So, instead, or as I said, you can go back to the start. You can go back to point A, you know, and just start again. It all depends on the situation. Just a quick point on this. On my novice and intermediate courses, when I ask people where they are, you know, on them, the first thing they do is they look at their map. But on the advanced courses, when I ask the same question, you know, where are you, everybody starts to look around themselves, you know. So to find out where you are on a map, whichever method you're using, don't look at your map to start with. Look around and gather information about the area that you're in. Try and find something that you can, you know, you should be able to find on the map. You know, you should be able to identify it. If you can find more than one point, then a resection is the way forward. You know, it's, as I said, there are lots of ways to find out where you are, but the main point of this tip is you must always know where you are on the map. Don't just walk along thinking, oh, I'm somewhere around here. You need to be able to go, I am here in this exact spot. And from there, you can start moving on and navigate away. Here's my next tip. These tips aren't in any particular order, by the way. They're just as they come into my head. Really look at your map. And, you know, when I say look at your map, I don't mean just give it a quick glance, which is what most people do. I've noticed that those who can navigate to a high degree of accuracy and precision, they'll take time to properly study their map. The information you need is all here, printed on this piece of paper. But to find it, you actually need to look closely. You know, after some time, when you've got, you know, you've looked at it a few times, you've got a memory of what the area looks like on a map. Yes, you know, take a quick glance at it, you know, as you're going along. But to start with, look at it. Now, I'm assuming for the purposes of this video that you already know how to read a map. You know, if not, then what I'm saying might not make any sense. Anyway, on my way up to the Tarns, I want to reach the top of, what's it called, Great Castle Howe. And since the terrain changes drastically, I'll break this part of the walk into two legs. The first leg should be, you know, straightforward. By looking at the map, not just glancing, I can see, you know, I can see the bridleway continues, you know, roughly northwest for about 1,000 meters until we reach Brimmerhead Farm. Since the text of Brimmerhead Farm, since it's in Gothic script, I'm guessing that it's an historic farmhouse. You know, Gothic script just indicates non-Roman historical sites before the year about 1600. That means the farmhouse is at least 600 years old. You know, so next time I'm up here, I might pop in and have a look. Also, by studying the map carefully, I can see that I'll only cross one contour line, you know, between here and the farm. So the walk will be relatively flat. Knowing the ground will be quite flat brings me to my next tip. try and visualize the terrain based on the information from the map, particularly the contour lines. You know, I'm following a bridleway, you know, and there are lots of walls and fences on the left. So I'd rather not climb over anything, so I'll stick on the bridleway. After passing the farm, I'll go through a gate and follow the wall on my right for about 200 meters until I reach a footpath over, what's it called? Little Bryn How Gill. Bryn probably comes from Brimmer, the guy who owned the farm, you know, centuries ago. We know that How means hill and Gill means stream. So Little Bryn How Gill is just the small stream running down the hill owned by Mr. Brimmer. They weren't very imaginative with naming things, you know, hundreds of years ago. Now let's head up to the footbridge, and once we arrive, we'll take another look at the map. Okay, the first leg along this section, it was easy. We were just following the bridleway, so we didn't really need to pay that much attention to the map, you know, just strolling along. But from here on, things change. From this footbridge, we're going to be heading up to Great Castle How, which is straight up there. And this is where you really need to start looking, not just glancing at your map. So we're going to go up the right-hand side of Little Bryn How Gill, and we'll have another chat when I get a bit higher. My next tip is plan your route. At first glance, you know, which we no longer do, the map might seem to suggest that there are two main ways to reach Great Castle How. You know, we could continue following this bridleway up towards Easdale Tarn, and then, well, basically we could just head south. But as we now look closely at our map, we can see in this area south of Easdale Tarn, look how closely the contour lines are joined together. This would mean that we'd have to scramble up some crags and rocks. And if we slipped, well, let's just say it's a long way down. Another option might be to follow the stream up towards this wooded area. Can you see there? Right now, but again, look at the contours. Can you notice the lines in this area here? Hopefully you can see this on your screen. This indicates a steep ravine or a gully, meaning the stream will be falling through it or down it. And since it's been raining here for the last few days, you know, we'd likely encounter a waterfall. And climbing up waterfalls isn't really the best idea, you know, especially A, when you're on your own, and B, when there's a much better alternative. So let's have another look at the map. Here's my suggestion. We could follow the stream, this Little Brown Hill Gill, all the way up to the base of this rocky outcrop, you know, and then simply head west along the base of the rocks. And then from there we could go up this, there's quite a wide, easy, relatively easy valley. I know it's a valley and not a spur, because if you look, it starts at 350 meters and it finishes at the 410 meters. And at the top there appears to be some gaps in the second outcrop. That will be above it. But most importantly, you know, it's really important this, notice how wide apart the contour lines are, you know. If we just followed the stream, you know, that would be a problem. But if we go up that valley, it means that we won't need to scramble, you know, as we make our way up to this large flat area, you know, and from there it's just a steady walk all the way to the top. So from here to the top, well, let's have a look. It's about 1,700 meters, which is, I should work this out before I start this, shouldn't it? Before I stand in front of the camera. Let's have a look. 1,700 meters. It's going to take us roughly 25 minutes walking. The elevation, I'll add some time for the elevation. Right now I'm standing on the 150 contour and I'm heading up to, you know, the summit, which is on the 500 meter contour. So that's a rise of 35 meters. 350 meters. So I'll add another 35 minutes, you know, for the extra climb. Plus, remembering the 10% rule, I'll add 10% for the steep ground and another 10% for walking through a load of bracken, which is really difficult. So in total, I should reach the top in about 1 hour, 15 minutes. So let's set off and see how this plan works. As I'm going up, I'm walking past lots of things which are shown on my map. And this brings me to another tip. Use collecting features. When I set off from the footbridge, I had a checklist of things that I was expecting to see along the way. Some people call these collecting features, you know, as you collect them as you walk by them. Others might call it what might they call it? A mental list to tick off as you walk along. But whatever you call it, the important thing is to look at your map before you set off, you know, as it'll give you an idea of the terrain, of the landmarks that you'll walk past on the way. Now, one of my collecting features is that I'm expecting the stream to pass between two lines of crags, and here they are. You know, there's one crag and there's one over there. So after this, I'm expecting the ground to flatten and the stream should start to veer more towards the south. And all of these features up to now are where I was expecting them. Now, not only did this tell me I was going in the right direction, but it also meant that I knew where I was on the map. Don't forget, always know where you are. You know, so you've got to. So my plan is to continue with the stream on my left until I get to a large outcrop, and that'll be my cue to turn right. An outcrop, by the way, is, how would I describe it? It's where the underlying bedrock is exposed in an area. You know, so you're walking along, it's grass, and you see a large lump of rock, that's an outcrop. So I'm going to carry on up here. Hopefully there's a flat bit, because it's hard going walking up here. It's a normal day in England. The visibility has dropped. It's not too bad. We've got about 30 meters visibility, so it's okay. It's a normal day in England, you know. Anyway, I'm still going upwards. I'm looking forward to this flat area. Gear report today on this, which is just, it's not raining, it's just a normal day in the hills in England. Altberg boots, totally soaked on the outside, completely wet. On the inside, completely dry. Fjällräven trousers, totally soaked on the outside. Let's just say they may be waterproof on a sunny day. They may appear waterproof. Montane top, montane smock. As you can see, soaked completely on the outside. On the inside, completely dry. And we've even got, what have we got? Timberland woolly hat. As you can see, soggy on the outside, but on the inside, totally dry. So, Fjällräven. Oh dear, what can you do? I'm one of these people, I believe the adverts, and I go down and I look at them in the shop and I don't know. You can't really tell if something's any good until you wear it in normal conditions. And these are normal conditions for me. Well, you know, anybody who goes walking in the hills in England, this is normal conditions. Anyway, onwards and upwards, that way. And this is the outcrop that I was expecting. So it's one of my collecting features. That's it behind me. If I was up here with my friends, you know, we'd probably just go straight up and over it. But I'm up here on my own, so better safe than sorry. I'll walk away from the stream now and I'll follow the base of this outcrop, and I'm expecting to see a valley rising up to my left, and it should get thinner as it goes up higher, although I'm not actually sure in this fog we'll be able to see that far up the valley. But you know, hopefully this fog will clear any moment now and you'll get tremendous views across the mountains. What do you think? We'll see. So up to now, all the catching features have been where I was expecting them to be, okay? Now, don't forget the 2 tips that we've already covered. Always know where you are and look at your map. And the next tip ties in with these. Learn to use and trust your compass. You know, a compass isn't just used to take a bearing or point the direction to follow. It can be used to measure distances on the map. Most compasses can be used as a magnifying glass. You know, compass roamers can be used to give you very accurate UTM coordinates or grid references, you know, etc., etc. Obviously, a lot of the time it will be used to take and follow a bearing. But on that point, here's the thing. If you don't trust your compass, what is the point in carrying it? You know, if you've taken a bearing from a map and you've checked it a few times, trust your compass. It won't lie to you. You know, when things go wrong, you know, it's nighttime, the wind is blowing at hurricane strength and it's just starting to snow, you know, and your mobile phone battery's dead and, you know, everything's gone wrong. Your map and compass don't suffer from stress. They will tell you the truth, whatever the conditions. So don't second guess your compass. If it tells you to go in a certain direction that way, that is the way you go. Okay. Now, I'm fairly confident in my location, you know, where I am, but I want my non-stressed compass to confirm it for me. Because, you know, if I go up the wrong valley in this area, in these conditions, I could have a few problems. You know, if it was a clear day, I could use my compass to take resections or transits off any of the features that I could see on the ground and on the map. But today we'll need to use a different method. Do you remember the very first tip? Use the simplest method for the terrain and the situation. Okay, so let's take another look at the map. Not a glance, but a look. I know I was at the footbridge some time ago and I followed the stream uphill to the base of a valley. I think it's this valley here on the map, but I want to make sure before I start ascending this valley. I'll put a map on the screen. Take a closer look at the map, not just a glance, but a proper look. What is the most obvious feature about that valley that will tell you, you know, if I am where I think I am? What will confirm my location? Pause the video and see if you can figure it out. Did you get it? I'm sure you did. There are a few ways to do this, but in this case, I'll do the quickest and the simplest thing that I can think of. I'll just use my compass to check the direction that the valley slopes downwards. And as you can see, it's heading north. Now, looking at the map, there is only one valley in this entire area with a north aspect. So I know that I'm in the middle of these two crags that I can see. They're about 50 meters apart. So I must be on the 350 contour right in the middle of that valley at the base. That pinpoints my exact location to within a few meters on the map. Let's say that I took a bearing and it was 40 degrees on the way up, you know. I didn't cross a stream, I haven't scrambled over any rocks. So in this case, with a 40-degree aspect, I'll drop this on your screen, I would be here on the map. But I'm not, I'm here. So even in these type of conditions, I know normally it's very simple. You just take a resection, you take a bearing in that direction, a bearing in that direction, draw them on your map, and where the lines cross, that's where you are. But in normal conditions, or at night, you can't do that. So you have to revert back to the really simple things. I know where I am, roughly, on the map. I know the direction of this valley. I can see the two crags on my left and on my right. So I know that I'm in between them. So I can now pinpoint my location on the map. Okay, anyway, let's carry on up this. I've just had my coffee, by the way, in case you were worried. I wouldn't want you to worry. just in fact, I'll finish my coffee off and then I'll continue up this hill. Hopefully we'll be at the top soon. Should get some nice views. Maybe not. I have to follow this valley up for around 400 meters and then there'll be a flat area. Let's get over this stream here. There'll be a flat area, and on the far side of the flat area will be Little Brynhow Gill, the stream I was following to start with. Well, let's carry on. When you're walking around the hills, you know, on a day like this on your own, you get to thinking about the deep questions that have troubled mankind for centuries. And I think everybody probably has the same sort of questions. The three questions I've been pondering today in this lovely weather is, what would my cat say if it could talk? What's the first thing it would say? Next, what would you do? What's the first thing you'd buy if you won the lottery? And lastly, what are the 3 greatest films of all time? Who knows? The first thing my cat would say, if she could talk, is, can you open the door? Because as soon as she comes in, she wants to go out again. I don't know. What would you do? What would I do if I won the lottery? The first thing I'd buy? Oh, wow, that's an easy one. What is the best feeling in the world? I'll tell you, a new pair of socks. Oh, don't you think, you know, when you put on a brand new pair of socks, how nice does that feel? So the first thing I'd buy is 365 pairs of socks. You know, maybe other people would buy something different, you know, an aeroplane or a helicopter or a mega yacht. Yeah, lots of new socks. The 3 greatest films of all time, that's an easy one. If you disagree, by the way, put your 3 in the comments. But the obvious, I think everybody's going to choose the same. The 3rd greatest film of all time is The Green Mile. How amazing, you know, in the jail. The 2nd greatest film of all time, the first film in the Shrek series, Shrek 1. Amazing film. But by far, the greatest film of all time is The Commitments. If you haven't seen The Commitments, well, you just haven't lived. Go and watch it, you'll see. Mustang Sally actually sounds better in The Commitments than the original. In fact, most of the songs in The Commitments actually sound better on that film than they did in the originals. Aha. Right, I have to talk to you because I've got nobody else to talk to. I mean, look at this place. When was the last person actually here? How many years ago did somebody actually stand in this exact spot? I don't know. Anyway, we'll keep going upwards, that way, south. Okay, so I've arrived at the stream, which is here, and as you can see, there is rough grassland in this area. And that ground cover is actually shown on the map. And this brings me to my next tip. Learn what all the symbols on your map mean. My advice, by the way, is don't try and memorize it all at once. You know, you'll never do it. Instead, just focus on your planned route for that day. And if there's a symbol along that route that you don't recognize, just have a quick look in the index and you'll find out what it means. Next, you know, when you do another route, learn what the symbols along that route mean. And very soon, you'll learn what they all mean without much effort. You know, it's not difficult. If I can do it, anybody can. So, as I said, I've arrived at the flat area, which is indicated by the widely spaced contours on this map. I'm going to cross over to the flat section to where the stream changes direction, which is just up there behind me, okay? And it changes direction to 220 degrees. And this is where I need to head west, which is 270 degrees. You know, there's almost no declination in this area right now, so grid and magnetic bearings they're roughly the same, you know, for navigation purposes. But this is where knowing how to use your compass becomes essential. You know, look where I am. I want to head from here towards Great Castle Howe, you know, which the map tells me is only 250 meters away, but I can't see it. So I'm going to have to follow a bearing of 270 for, what did I say, 250 degrees? 250 meters. Now, I've already mentioned the importance of learning to use your compass and, you know, and trusting it. And a critical part of that is being able to simply and accurately follow a compass bearing. You know, if you're not comfortable with doing that, you know, it really is worth spending some time practicing. You know, it really is a fundamental skill when you go out walking in the hills. You know, so anyway, enough of that. All I'm going to do is look for something on my 270 bearing from here and walk to it. Set my compass to 270. Yeah, here we go. It's there. And from here, I can see a large boulder just on the crest of the hill. So I'm going to walk up to that large boulder, and then we'll have another chat when I get there. I've arrived at the boulder. This was my boulder. And from here, I'm just going to repeat exactly the same thing. I'm going to find something else on the 270 bearing from here, and I'm going to walk to that. And I'll keep on leapfrogging until I reach my destination. I'll keep doing that. Now, today, I've not done anything complicated. In fact, I'm really trying to keep it as simple as possible. But if you and your friends come to an area like this, somebody in your group really has to be able to navigate, you know, to this standard using a map and a compass. I mean, can you see what's happened behind me? Look at that. The fog has lifted. Literally, from I've only walked up this bank, what, 40 meters? And in that time, the fog just went, boom. So I'd like to apologize now for any, you know, the audio quality, because I think my microphones are waterlogged. Road microphones are not designed for this type of conditions, and I do keep wiping the lens on the camera, but I know it's, so if you see like lots of little spots on the lens, that's what it is. Anyway, so I'm going to go on find something else on 270, and I'm going to walk to that, and I'll keep doing that until I get to the top of Great Castle Howe. So I'm still walking my 250 meters in that direction on a bearing of 270 degrees. Now, in some situations, my next tip would be that you should learn pacing and timing. Now, these techniques would work here. They would do the job. But do you remember, again, my very first tip? Use the simplest method that the terrain and the situation allows. And in this case, there is a technique that is not only more appropriate, but it's also almost foolproof, almost. So my next tip is to use catching features. Catching features act as a safety net. They catch you. They are an obvious indicator which tells you if something's gone wrong. When planning your route, you need to identify something that will tell you that you've missed your target. For example, I'll give you an example. Let's say that I'm walking from point A to point B, and somehow I get to point C. Point C is my catching feature, so I know I've gone too far. In this situation where we are now, timing and pacing aren't really appropriate. I need a feature that will tell me that I've gone past Great Castle Howe. The key is, as always, pick something obvious. Catching features need to work in any terrain, in any conditions, in any visibility. I'll drop the map onto your screen. Can you spot it? The obvious catching features. There are others, but I would say that the best one is that from here to the summit, I'll be walking uphill. If I start to go downhill, then I've gone too far. So walking downhill is my catching feature, okay? You know, even at night, when it's snowing and the wind's blowing a gale and whatever the conditions, you can always tell if you're walking uphill or downhill. So even in the fog that we had earlier on, I'm going up to Great Castle Howe, I would know if I've gone past the summit. For the simple fact, I will be walking downhill in some direction. Welcome to the summit of Great Castle Howe. If you've not been here before, this is what it looks like. From here, I just need to go down to the 3 small tarns, which are 250 meters on a bearing of 246. So I'll go down there for no other reason than it's a good place to have a cup of coffee and a sandwich. This is where I've been heading for all day. You know, there are much larger tarns just a short distance from here. There's Stickle Tarn in that direction, Codell Tarn in that direction, and Easdale Tarn over there. But I prefer these, you know, these more smaller ones in the more remote areas. Anyway, that's 10 tips which, if you use them, they should start you along the way to being able to safely navigate around the hills in most areas of the world. I'm actually trying to remember what they all were. It's a long video this. Let's think. Use the simplest method that the terrain and the situation allows. Always know where you are. Look at your map. Don't glance. Plan your route. Visualize the ground from the information on the map. Let's have a think. There was use collecting and catching features, learn to use and trust your compass, know what the symbols are on the map, and use pacing and timing. And I think the last one was use catching features. As I said at the beginning, it's simply not possible to make a video, you know, with all the different aspects which go into good navigation in the hills. For example, today I haven't even mentioned magnetic declination, UTM coordinates or grid references, map scales, micro navigation, reduced visibility, etc., etc. You know, but hopefully these 10 tips will give you an insight. And the highlight of my day was meeting one of my YouTube subscribers just over there a short while ago. Hi Mark, thanks for watching. Any comments, put them in the box.